Chris Aller with ONTrack Weekly. I'm driver number 76 Bone Stock from Sunset Speedway. I'd like to take this time to thank my sponsors, Junior's Haulage, East King Trucking, Technicore, Fast Car Audio, Nicky's Tire, and Auto Trimmaberry. Enjoy the show, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen.
What's going on, everybody? Episode 96. Hard to believe. 96 episodes already here on ONTrack Weekly. Of course, we started off as the Pinty Series Power Hour, now exclusively known as ONTrack Weekly, here on G-Force TV. Tech issues galore tonight. Just trying to get stuff to work, unfortunately. And as you see, my menu here has been cut off a little bit. I have some sort of a glitch happening right now with the system that can't seem to figure out. It's been one of those days where anything that could go wrong has gone wrong today. But luckily, I was able to get out to Sunset Speedway this past weekend for their Hilltop Nationals for the Bone Stock Invitational. $1,000 to win, and Ontario Legend, Great Lake Legend combination event. Mini stocks and the junior late models, and great event, and lots of good stuff. And as Wes points out, it even says the wrong name up there. It's Saskatoon, not Edmonton, for the NASCAR Canada Series this weekend. But hopefully you got out there. Hopefully you got some time at the racetrack this weekend. Lots of racing that happened, starting all the way back at Ohsweken Speedway with the Dirt Classic. Now, I'm very interested to hear what people thought about the Dirt Classic this year, specifically. A little bit different compared to what we've seen. I mean, third year of this experiment, third year of racing with the NASCAR Canada Series at Ohsweken Speedway. And you can't deny that Ohsweken Speedway is one of the best hosts for an event that we see in this series, but not just for racing in the NASCAR Canada Series, just racing in general. I think what they do there is exactly what shows need to be. Showcasing solid efforts to get their 360 and crate show on a broadcast previous to the NASCAR Canada Series. And honestly, for myself, I enjoyed that actually more than a NASCAR race. It's not been something that I would say probably previously, but the more and more that you get to start watching week in and week out. I've been watching G-Force TV since 2020, but dirt racing I really hadn't started watching until about last year, really. And it's still not, to me, it's ever not going to be at that point, that level that asphalt racing is, just because, I mean, I grew up with asphalt racing, so it's always going to be the number one love there. But what I can definitely say is that Ohsweken Speedway and the product that G-Force TV has put on, it's giving an opportunity to see some of the personalities and some of the racers and just some of the names that I've started to get to know, aside from the one driver that I knew kind of previous in the crates, Cam Thompson. But there's some names starting to come into kind of effect that I know on a regular basis, and become fans of those drivers. and that personality, like Brett Stratford is a perfect example of somebody who, to me, is the type of personality I love to see in victory lane. Carr's pretty much blank, but I absolutely love what he's doing and what he does, and his general demeanor is just, it's so welcoming, and I love to see that. I love to see that guys that maybe don't have that budget are out there and succeeding. It is. I can't say I think I ever would have ever gone the dirt route in terms of making sure that I watch it every week, but this is what the product and why the product is what it is. It's because when you get it brought to you, you get that exposure that you would never have. I would have never known, because I don't live really near any dirt tracks. I think Brighton, Feeney would probably have to correct me, but I think Brighton might be the closest one to me, because it's definitely not Southern Ontario or Buxton, and it's definitely not Oshwegan Speedway. I believe Brighton is the closest one to me. Maybe Merrittville. I don't really know where Merrittville is in comparison, but it's Brighton Speedway. Yeah, so it's also with getting to learn a little bit more about that through Corey Halber, Caitlin O'Blennis, guests we've had on the show, Dave Bailey, and seeing what these guys and gals do. I mean, I'm always gonna love the mini stocks. I think a little bit more than the sprint cars. I know it sounds crazy, but mini stock, man, those guys are like 3 and 4 wide for multiple laps, and you got some guys and gals that are in that division that you see on the asphalt. So Jillian Hills, I gotta always support her. Wade Thorne, been out there. Chris Lawrence starting to come into this. Colton Everingham was out there. Spencer Riddell's been out there, and then Alex Stewart has been out there. So I think one of those things that I really have started to enjoy seeing the week to week at Oshwegan Speedway. I would like to see, obviously, a little. I'm really more about loving parity in terms of winners, but what you can't deny certain names when they're up on the card. Yeah, okay, Merrittville, not even close to me. So Brighton is the closest one, or maybe a lot smaller tracks that maybe aren't as populated. I don't know. Feeney, where's Humberstone located? Or David, where's Humberstone located? But yeah, typically, like I said, I mostly talk about the asphalt side of things, but I definitely had to make a mention of the Niagara. Yeah, not even close. I really just wanted to make mention of how good, not just because we're on GeForce TV, but the product itself has just been phenomenal. And like I said, starting to get to know Jesse Costa and Liam Martin. I'd love to not see some of these cars take tumbles, exactly like what you see in the on the asphalt side. Don't want to see cars getting wrecked. Unfortunately, it's just there comes a point where this is starting to get ridiculous, and I'm not one to. I never want to talk ill of a driver. I'm not out there. That's not my goal. But we have some serious things that need to be cleaned up. In the last month, we have now had 2 late models end up hitting flag stands. And we were lucky. We were very lucky. I don't even know what the solution's got to be, but the situation at Delaware, I don't like ever getting to the point where I'm freaking out because I don't know if the driver's okay or not. I don't know if the flagman's okay. I don't know if there's debris that went into the crowd. I mean, Full Throttle was significantly worse, but there needs to be some work done. I think also the one thing that we tend to do is we tend to we're quick to react as fans and people. They want to be quick to blame. Situational. It's just the same thing what happened with Shea Gemmel and Cody Ferry a couple weeks ago. It's so easy to go in and blame and say, well, this person did this and this person did that. But unless you're behind the wheel of the car, you don't really know. You're seeing it from the outside. It's so easy for people to say, oh, I would have done it this way, or I would have never made that mistake. But we really don't know. However, the one thing that seems to be common occurrence in talking with a lot of race promoters, people at the racetracks, people within different racing series right now, is awareness. Driver awareness around from their surroundings. Lap cars. Now, in the situation on Friday, that was not a lap car situation. That to me was spotter communication, driver communication. Drivers that have been around for many, many years making these mistakes. It happened in OSS as well, where a driver that knows the rules, that knows how to race, made a move that wasn't good. Lots of drivers haven't run without spotters, and it shows. Obviously, it can happen, so hopefully the tracks are being proactive and assessing if their flag stands are safe enough, or if they need to be redesigned for everybody's safety. Now, Gord, I would agree, and the one thing I'm curious if, and one thing I really haven't paid attention to is the stands in terms of what holds the flag stand up being inside of the track and having support pillars that are within distance. Now, obviously, Delaware is going to look at this. Like, there's no doubt about it. Now, they have an I-beam there for that specific reason, which I shudder to think what would have happened if they didn't have that. It did what it was supposed to do, but then comes the fear of what happens if the car had hit that from the roof, because I think we have a very different outcome. Obviously, no one wants cars to get up in the air. I think Spencer Riddell mentioned earlier, talked about the walls. I think we've seen it before. A perfect example is cars that are clearing walls and getting over them. A couple of times, actually, at Flamborough, it happened in the last couple of seasons with J.R. Fitzpatrick in the Pro Late, and I believe it was T.J. Edwards in the Modifieds, and people got hurt. We've got to look at those types of situations, because right now racing is still old-fashioned. It really is. And if serious injury and lawsuits, for example, were to happen, I think we could look at Clark Hartman in Mini. There's another one. We want to make sure that we're being proactive here, and situations where we're having repeated incidents need to be fixed. Now, there's some tracks where it's not as easy to have that, but I think we've talked about is that no matter what type of vehicle you're in, you can wreck any single spot on a racetrack. You don't know where you're going to end up. It's a matter of if you get hit, if you've been sent in a different direction, the speed, the angle that you were at, and you can find the worst spot to hit. Brandon Feeney and I have talked about this before, and he has had multiple hits that have launched him. And the one thing that we cannot have, as Spencer points out, is you need to have safety evaluations at tracks. And there have been situations at every track, I'm sure, where concerns over safety have been brought up. But when you go to building inspectors, building inspectors are having, they're checking older buildings all the time, but I think tracks maybe wouldn't be something that they would look at. I think that there's obviously an issue with this happening at Delaware Speedway. We want people to go down onto the track. We want people to get down there, but at the same time, does the wall need to come up? Does this need to come up? Does that need to? It's one of those things that all it would take is something severely wrong, and I think we're, for the most part, very lucky. It's one of those situations where, because Delaware is so good at making sure people aren't by the fence. I know Chris is one of the unsung heroes there, because he always makes sure that the people are not along the fence, that they're not where they're not supposed to be. Because if there were people there, they would have been potentially hurt, and it's definitely a scary thing, and we don't want to see this. We don't want cars to get to the point where they're being demolished like this. We saw cars get demolished in the prolates and in the OSS on Friday night. One in a circumstance of what I deem would be someone was at fault. In both cases, it wasn't, quote, just a racing incident. Battling for position is one thing. Now, the situation at Varney was looked to be a little more obvious as to what was happening. But I definitely think that we're at that point now where people would have no problem trying to shut a track down if somebody were to be killed or severely injured. And this is the whole point of accountability. Let off in certain circumstances. If you know that if you're going to get blocked by somebody, or if you see that this isn't going to be a smart move, we were talking with racers, and I know we want to make some, drivers want to make up as many positions as they possibly can off of the start. But there's a certain situation where, and it adds to kind of a regular racing night, the amount of cautions. If you have a 15 or 20 lap feature and you have 6 caution flags, I think that's a problem. Now, we go from a situation where we have a series that had 27 cars on the track this weekend at Sunset Speedway. 27 cars. Not the most we've ever seen. There's definitely been more. But after a while, I loved what they did. They said, okay, we're running up against the clock here. Single file restarts from now on. And the next caution flag ends the race. I understand it's not a popular decision, but at the end of the day, for safety's sake, for the fans' sake, for moving the show along, I loved it. Loved the call. I think caution limitations, especially when it comes to these weekday shows, one of those things you have to talk about, how many kids are at these shows. They can't wait for caution after caution after caution after caution. It slows everything down. And you got to think about it. When racing starts at, say, 3 o'clock, and now it's 9 o'clock, you've gone 6 hours of racing. I mean, we all love it, but we want to also get the show on the road here. Yes. Unfortunately, Reeser, it was a combination. There was multiple in the junior lates, multiple cautions there, and then there was multiple cautions in the legends, and the situation with and then in the mini stocks there was a red flag. Add that with the massive long delays for getting the track cleaned because of something they can't really control, which is if cars blowing their motor, have to clean up the track. You shouldn't at least be lax with that. But I think that this is a situation where we don't just keep going and going. You either count caution laps. Honestly, time limits, I know it's not something that racers want to hear, but I look at it from both sides. I look at it from the racing side, and as a promoter and as a fan, yes, as McPherson Motorsports, it was so late by the time the main event started, and they tried to do as best as they could, but it's so difficult to squeeze so much in a short amount of time. And if you think about how long it takes to put on a lot of these events comparative to, say, a baseball game where it isn't 3 hours long, 4 hours long, you're going to have to kind of try to limit how long stuff takes. And to me, I think it all goes back to heats. I think when you have situations where heats are causing cars to blow up, if we take away the time that was lost there and add it to potentially the feature, is it possible that couldn't have happened? Absolutely. The thing is that there's going to be delays every week. And I'm not bashing any sort of track because it's happened at every single place. There's things I think that when it comes to putting on that great show, there's sometimes too much can be too much. You want to give people enough of a show that's worth the ticket value. And I almost don't think it has to be the amount of races. And I think that's what we've seen. I mean, I like what Sunset did this year. I think one set, if you're going to have them, one. Not more than that. And the reason is just the timing. You can't be starting, and I think this is what's coming down to it. Your main event can't start later than 10 o'clock. I mean, a perfect example is OSS. We've had a really tough time in the past where if we start past 10 or 11, like 10, 15, you're giving 45 minutes to get 100 laps in. That's where it's up to, I think, series to kind of look at that. And this is, again, working together with the tracks. Okay? So race directors working with the track saying, listen, track tells them how much time they've got left, and they make that decision what we're going to do. If we've got time. Now, Delaware Speedway on Friday made an exception, I believe. They went a little bit past their curfew, but we don't want to keep doing that, right? We don't want to alienate. We don't want to make anybody upset. But I think one thing that we can look at for sure is ways to move the show along. Intermission shows, I do think that is a necessity. I really do. I think it helps get the fan interaction, get people moving. But what we don't want is fan intermission that takes more than, say, 20 minutes. If it's taking 45 minutes to an hour, I think it's too long. It could be something as simple as giveaways, contests. The gimmick stuff works. But I think other things got to take sacrifice at that time. I think when you do have so many different divisions, you want to get as many cars to show up. What I will say, this past weekend being at Sunset, what was amazing to me was the determination of some of those racers to show up. We had drivers that showed up. We're not saying there was a ton, but we had a driver from Sauble. We had drivers from Full Throttle, from Delaware, and from Flamborough that all came and raced. Now, I didn't expect any from Peterborough because Peterborough was their bone stocks were racing that night. Grand Bend, same thing. They were racing that night, so we weren't going to see any of those. But to me, as a race fan and somebody that follows all across Ontario, to see Tyler Wheel there, to see Sterling Roberts, who I watch every Friday at Delaware, to see Spencer Riddell from Flamborough, Gary Slama, to see Gary Slama at the racetrack. I never get to see Gary Slama. That was wicked. To see James Houghton, Julia Boss, Dustin Johnston, that was cool. Jordan Wilms, and Craig Cole. It was cool to see guys from all over. And that's where I really kind of love the fact that we got to see that. It doesn't matter to me that, you know, there wasn't 40 or 50 cars. Like that doesn't, it doesn't need to be like that. I applaud the fact that we got something like this put together during the season and that we had people from all over show up to play, honestly. I like that the tech, you know, you see, and we got people they got home so late too, because the show, and that's the thing, when the show runs late, everything else afterwards also runs late. And you know what? You've got to give it to the staff, because they're the ones that stuck around, and they stick around to make sure that stuff happens. And they do whatever the heck that they can to make sure that the show finishes. I said it's a long day for the kids. Long day for those kids. The ones that were racing, you know, we weren't able to stay to the end. And I'm one of those guys that I would love to be there right to the very end of every event. But I also have my limit. And it was hot too. And I know there was people that were dehydrated, people that probably were a little, had a little bit of heat stroke. The drivers as well. My God. It wasn't as humid, which was nice. Like, I think what was okay was that it was just a general heat. It was just hot. It wasn't hot and humid. If we had that humidity, I honestly do not think that the driver should have been out there. If we had the humidity with that heat, it would have probably been like pretty unsafe. I know drivers will do whatever they can to get out there and race, but as somebody who genuinely cares about the racers and the fans, we don't want people like, we had a driver that was there that didn't race in the feature because he wasn't feeling well. You don't want to see that. We don't want people to be throwing up at the end of the night and ill and needing IV or needing to see medical help because they're so overheated. That's why I couldn't do racing like myself. It's too warm for me. And I actually felt like it was kind of okay during the day, but then around like 7 and 8 o'clock, the wind died down and it got really hot. Yeah. Spencer says, this is how I shed my winter weight, sit in a fire suit for hours. I might have to look into it, man, because if it must be working well for you, because you don't have much winter weight to get rid of. So, and I know the guys up at Varney, actually, they were probably dealing with a bit more temperature. I think we sat around 27, 28 degrees with a little bit of humidity, and it was around 32, 33. Varney, I'm pretty sure the temperature was 32, 33, feeling closer to 36, 38. And conditioning the heat is a big thing. Absolutely, Feeney. It is. And one of those things about Sunset that I think people know is that it gets hot and it stays. Working in the heat every day helps huge. That definitely would do it. I was dropping 10 to 15 pounds on race night double headers. Yeah, the amount of that people don't, again, a lot of loudmouths like to say that, racers aren't athletes. Bull. If you were in those cars and you're being able to race in those temperatures, especially when you got a nail handling car too, and you really got to work it to get the yourself up in the division. It shows though, again, the field was kind of spread. There wasn't, at least in the bone stocks, for the guys that were coming in just for the invitational, wasn't dominated by people coming in. It was kind of an even spread all around. And the one thing I think that may have been something that they could have looked at, there was that red flag for the legend cars. Actually, I don't think they didn't have a red flag because they kept running, but the minis did. And I don't know what Graydon thinks about when he had to sit there, if how hot it got. But the one thing that a lot of racers have talked about is the waiting in the chute. That's when it gets to be exceptionally hot because you're just sitting in the car. And I don't know how the chute is elsewhere. It would have been nice to have a little bit of shade, I think, for some of these guys, but and these aren't NASCAR Cup cars with the air conditioning that they've got in those, in the money for cool suits and the cool helmet and everything like that. It's insane. I think bone stocks guys have a little bit easier because they don't have the windows. They don't have windshield. I don't think they have. Sunset is very warm compared to other lineups. Oh, okay. I have worked hard on heat conditioning. I was going jacked up on adrenaline. I could have done another 50 laps. That's one of the things that you have to hope for, is that you do have that adrenaline. But we talked with racers that said that they threw up after races because of how hot they were, and it just goes to show, it doesn't matter what type of person you are, heat will get you. And this weekend especially, we had another good. So Flamborough is wide open. Nice breeze once in a while. Yeah, that's solid there. I've been asking to get lined up a little later for that reason. I understand timing, but at the same time, it's friggin' hot. I would think so, Calvin, and I don't think I've gone to a lot of races at Sunset Speedway, and I really don't ever remember it ever being windy. Ever. I don't know if it's just the location or what, but I remember Jukasa a couple times been there, and it was always windy, and Peterborough, same thing. In fact, at Autumn Colors, I just wanted it to be warm a little bit because I've been so friggin' cold there. But I think, again, we head into this week, even having a crew member with you. Sorry, where did that go? Oh, I guess we lost that comment from Spencer. I've been asking, so we got that. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. But, we definitely, I think that's one of those things we want to make sure that the people are being able to do that. And even just having cool drinks for everybody as soon as they get off. That's so important. In the pits, once you get to the top, you get a breeze, but with the billboard, it gets lost on the chute. Yeah, I would imagine that would be the case, right? Even having a crew member with you so you can unbuckle a little bit, then strap you in before you go out. Especially when the shows from some divisions ahead of the Bone Stocks typically run long. Not like we can run water and battery fans up to the chute to keep our drivers cooled off while they wait. And this is one of those things. It's a catch 22, right? You want to be able to have, you want to be able to have people, like we want to have people at the track, and you want to have it at a good, reasonable time. But then at the same time, it is incredibly hard to expect people to go and stand out and that heat as well, in the middle of the day. It's tough. It's yeah. I think one of those things that we want people to do is, be comfortable. And Pop says it was hot standing in front on the front straight at Sauble with the monster trucks at Sauble. 6 waters, no pee, and that was before our show. An hour and a half meeting fans. As long as people take care of each other. And I think that's one thing that I think it's really so great about the racing community is they do. Have them lined up in pit 15 to go buckle up. That's a good idea. Nicest thing we can have is helmet off drinking, and pass empties out. Yeah. It's one of those things, I hope that we can continue to have the show and put it on safely for everybody. There's definitely an art to it. And you got to go back to those days, right? When there was no cool suits. There was no blowers in the helmets. You went out and did it. And the short track racing scene is a lot smaller. A lot smaller than, I guess we could ever say hockey up here, right? It's never going to be that big, but the community itself is amazing. And I want to bring up one of those moments that was just amazing this past weekend. Now, we know that the show at the racetrack is for racing fans, but they have things for the kids as well. And one of those things that I've actually never seen before at the track was kids' bike races. And basically, you got your kids from different age groups. They bring their bike and they do a lap around the racetrack. And I didn't actually think that, you did, like, these kids had the energy to do it, but long and behold, they did. And I felt so bad for this little guy out there who the rest of the group took off. And he had his little bike with his little training wheels, but unfortunately he's on the bottom part of the track, and he's tippy with the training wheels and not really sure of himself, and what you see is the Sunset Speedway staff. This is Ben Dennis, who does flagging. He basically does, I mean, I don't know, he does a ton of stuff there. But this is one of my favorite picks that we had of this weekend, and several people got it, but look at that. So this little guy stopped off in about turn 1 and really wasn't sure what to do. If he should keep going or if he should head back. And he got a helping hand and support from Ben, guiding him along. And it took him a while, but he completed the lap. It was Todd Tolton's son. And made his way all around the track. And the best, and this is what I'm saying, the coolest part about that was the starting from the beer tent area, the beer section, all the way across the speedway. The fans started cheering for him as he made his long-awaited finish. This is the moments. These are the things that is so special to see. It's what makes racing so much fun. Calvin is, Calvin says it should be moved to pit road because that's a big lap. I that's what I thought. I mean, for maybe the older kids, it's a little bit better, but the little ones, I mean, maybe just the front stretch. Like, I'd say, like, maybe you make a small one around cones or something, but because the kids might look at it and go, oh, well, this doesn't look that hard, but then not realize, hey, there's banking here. So and it was hot too, right? So those little ones, they got a long way to pedal. So and Danielle McPherson got another pick. She got better shots. That was my attempt. She got a great shot of that. My dad got a good shot of it as well, and it was awesome. It was awesome to see that. McPherson Motorsports. It seems so cruel. The little kids do the whole lap. The tweens have no problems, but the little ones feel bad. They did a running race. So that's what I have seen before, Spencer, was the running one. And I didn't see it it was at Ash Weekend, that's right. And I was thoroughly entertained, but I don't believe it was kids. It was adults, I thought. And I still remember it was on a broadcast. The guy had led the whole thing, made it to like turn 3, and then I think he tripped, and the guy in second passed him, and he tried to get up, and he tripped again. And I believe you're right. $500 to win, I believe, is what it was out there at Oshweekend Speedway. And but for these kids, like that's an experience, right? It's not something that you're gonna get to do every day of the week, and I think doing stuff like this is great. I'd love to see more of this type of thing. Every track, they do the barrel races out at Peterborough. I think that what we're going to see next week with the Power Wheels at Sunset, that's another thing. A bunch of 40. Yeah. McPherson Motorsports, a bunch of 40-somethings dry heaving in the infield would be the real show. Yeah, I think we could definitely bet on that one for sure. I don't know about whether or not that would be it, but it happens, right? I think it would be, but I think those types of fan interactions we talked about, those are the things that make a difference too. The Power Wheels, I think, is a great initiative. We already know the kids ride-alongs at Peterborough. I mean, that's something that they don't get an opportunity to regularly do. I personally would love to see that everywhere. I tend to think that maybe some sort of insurance reason is probably why they don't do it, but I think seeing these types of things for the kids and the young race fans is excellent. We want to see more and more people come out to the racetrack, more and more young folk coming out, because that's the next generation of racing fan, and there's so many good kids coming up. I'm telling you, Rylan Camrath, for 7 years old, is driving the hell out of his junior late model. I'm catching his first junior late model race at the start of the season, and he was one of the slowest cars out there, and got really, really into the bump and into the bumps into turn 2, and kind of, I think it rattled him. And today, this kid's going to go out there and he's going to win, I think, and if not this year or next year for sure, because he was flying on the high side. And I honestly was so impressed with him. Now, he's got a great teacher. I mean, Andy stepped out of the seat this year and was helping coach. And, I think the future, man, is so bright. You've got Craig Camrath's kids, Cole and Carter racing. You've got Todd's kid, Josh Davenport, who's really having a season. He is smoking the field right now in both tracks, Sauble and at Sunset Speedway. Is a shoo-in for the championship right now if things don't get closer between him and Keegan Moat. It's very impressive. Very, very impressive to see. And then you go to Peterborough and there's Savannah Strawn and Lila Sigma and all the Cousineaus. You have Chase Stevenson. There's so many kids coming into the racing scene. It's fantastic to see all the Sellers boys. There's just countless of them. And the Gibbons kids. So we've got a great group of young racers, and they've implemented now that they've got these bandoleros coming in out at Peterborough Speedway. And if they're going to be a division that is in between the junior late models and maybe full size cars, I'm actually okay with that. If they do what we've start working on a ladder system where it goes junior lates to bandoleros to legends, and that is a steady progression, I like that idea. If we can work on a way that doesn't just keep people in it for 1 year, 2 years, or max out and then it's not reachable or attainable. I think the legends are starting to show once again the reality. And one of the things that I was told was about INEX and about the legends and why they're going to be so good is that you can get the parts. It's all through INEX, and it's going to be a lot easier of a process, a lot cheaper of a process. Racing is not cheap by any means. But the other thing was that because they're INEX product, that it's regulated by INEX, you can go and take them and race in the U.S. And then the same product. It doesn't take any changes. And you can go to the Maritimes and do the same. Maritimes have bandoleros out there. I believe they've got legends, pretty big legend group out there. A great opportunity. Spencer says, I want to try a bandolero or even a mini truck. Those things ran almost a faster lap time than a top running bone stock at Flamborough. Mini trucks are definitely something else. I would hope we can get a bit more interest in. It is the hope that the divisions. Right now, I believe mini trucks, there's only 2 places they run. And yes, Spencer, as Brandon Feeney says, Jeff Jeremy can get you into Bando. They've got a rental program. I'm not sure how full they are right now, but definitely look at potentially getting in there. I want to get a couple people and see what we can get out of this division, because we're looking at it going, if you want to do something where you got your kids 6 to 10 or 6 to 12, do your junior lates. 12 to 17, do junior late models, and then you got 17 to whatever in bone stocks, or mini stocks, whatever. I don't know. I don't see the harm in that, as long as it doesn't hurt. Like, that's the biggest thing. We don't want it to hurt the current situation. You don't want it to diminish or destroy what's already there. How about us old guys over 65? I'm pretty sure everybody can fit in these bandoleros. I might be wrong, but Feeney would know better than I. Feeney says he's supposed to fit. I don't know about that. Feeney's taller than I am, so he's not as wide as I am, though. So, I googled the rules in the 8s. In the States for bandos, and the age caps out at 99. So, Pops, you're good. You're good. It caps out at 99, so you got several years to go, man. You fit in Caitlin Wallace's car. Well, you barely fit. You barely fit in that car. It's good to have those options, and we had Cleveland in a junior late model. I don't know about that, Tracy. It seems like it'll be a little tight, but that's the thing that's going to make it an interesting couple of years here to see what's going to happen. I mean, we've already I've had conversations with people that have driven them, and they did say that they do appreciate and they like how they feel with the independent suspension. Definitely goes over the bumps a lot easier, and they're easier to drive, which is good. The one thing I don't really like seeing is the junior lates flipping, and I obviously anything can flip. Like, that's the reality of it. We had a bone stock flip a couple weeks ago, Chase Downer at Peterborough. Anything can flip, but we want to limit that, especially with the kids right away. And if we can do that by having these cars that maybe have a little bit better of a program, that's great. The cost as well, we want to make sure costs stay low, and that they're readily available, and that's the biggest thing too. And having a rental program is the right way to start out. I think you want to get people interested in racing that don't have to buy everything themselves. If they can do that, great. His brother comes back, gets his first heat win after talking with me during flip on pit road. Not bad. We're here every week to talk motorsports across Ontario and talking about all the stuff that's helping the weekly racing. And I didn't think that when we started doing the show from the NASCAR Canada or Pinty Series Power Hour to switch it over and talk Ontario racing, but we're already at episode 96. We've got 4 episodes. We're going to go down to 3 for next week until we hit 100 episodes for this show. I never really thought that this would ever happen, that I would get the opportunity to talk racing on a channel like GeForce TV, a place where I first started watching racing in 2020 during the pandemic, Ontario racing specifically. This is something still new to me. It's only been since 2020 since I started to learn about the Ontario racing scene. despite living here my whole life. What a missed opportunity, and it's the hardest thing to know that missed out on all the history and the amazing divisions. But growing up only watching NASCAR, it was always NASCAR was the thing. CASCAR, Canadian Tire Series, that was the thing. It had to be NASCAR all the time. And now for me, it's not. I find that I'm not really opposed to any of the divisions. I think all of them are good. There's a couple divisions that I don't have any interest in. It's because it's hard to follow them because there's no promotion, there's no videos, there's no updates on websites, there's no current information. So that makes it really hard to follow. But the ones that have put the product out there and made it available, they're the ones that I continue to fall in love with each time I get to see them. And there's something about these weekly racers that just don't get enough love and don't get enough respect. And that's what we're here to talk about on this show, is talk about some of those names. One of the things that we can definitely do is we can help continue to grow GeForce TV. We're currently sitting at 18,500 subscribers. We can get another 500 subscribers, get up to 19,000 by the end of, I'm pretty sure we could get by the end of the racing season this year. We could get maybe up to 20,000 subscribers by the end of 2024. Let's make that a goal. 1.5, that's all we got to go, and get 1,500 more viewers, subscribers, not viewers. 1,500 subscribers to the channel, and you know what? Can we get some likes as well? We need a couple of these thumbs up, because that helps with the shows. That helps us with getting the content out to you. And obviously, didn't ever think we'd get up to 96 episodes, but I definitely want to thank Spencer Mullen, who's been a huge help behind the scenes for me, getting the equipment, setting everything up. Clinton Jeffrey, obviously, my boss, my guy, the guy that's helped so very much put this out there and make it become a reality. Adam Ross, who really gave me confidence when I didn't have it in myself, to be able to do this. I love getting to talk Ontario racing. It's my passion. I think it should be everybody's passion, frankly, because there's just so many great people that deserve so much attention. They deserve to be showcased. The Ontario racing scene is fantastic. Thank you for being a part of it. I really appreciate it. Have yourselves a great week, everybody. Stay safe out there on the racetracks. We'll be back next week for episode 97 of ONTrack Weekly.